Did you know that you can regulate your horse's heartbeat? Did you know that horses regulate their heartbeats when together? In proximity of 3 feet of each other, they can sync together. The primary goal being they can sense a threat on one side of the herd and the others know simply by the synchronizations of their heart. Sound similar to your staff? It's exactly like your staff. The synchronization of your people is your culture. What if I told you that your culture can go racing away just Today, I have insights and tools to address critical hiring and culture challenges that impact your company's success. Before we begin, take a moment and jot down 1 or 2 things you are hoping to take away from today's session. If I don't address them throughout the presentation, we'll come back to them at the end. Some ask me, why horses? When we work with the horses, we give our clients the ability to magnify what they don't understand about themselves through these beautiful animals. The horses are able to interpret us as humans, and we don't understand about ourselves. For today, we're going to talk about the findings and stories behind what we know and how you can use these tactics without the hefty horse bills included. Hiring and retention is a very psychological game. It's no longer a function within a company. It's an entire industry spanning multiple generations. It includes emotion, inspiration, and memories. And while essential to business, it's not a tactile product, and it costs more and more by the day. But we have made the intangible tangible. It's easier to see, touch, and now understand. We want to stop weaponizing the bad memories of bad hire, turnover, cultural missteps, shaping how we're approaching hiring and leadership, whether we realize it or not. We're not actually fixing the problem, and we have agreed to live in a known discomfort because the discomfort we know is better than the fear of what we don't, right? Here's what some of you may be experiencing inside your company: expensive hiring costs, not enough qualified candidates, an elusive culture that you can't seem to pin down, high turnover rates, unsure if your training dollars are yielding the best return, and your hiring is taking up too much time. It's a lot of us. So let's get personal for a moment. What is the one issue that keeps you up at night regarding your hiring? Jot it down in your notes. If you had a magic wand, what is the one thing you would fix inside your hiring process? These issues are becoming the invisible boogeyman, and it's killing our businesses. Show of hands, how many people think that they accurately know what their hiring costs are? So before we go any further, I thought it would be interesting to go to ChatGPT and ask what recommendations it has for a company with these hiring challenges. Here's its response: exit interviews, recruitment funnel data, improving job descriptions, expanding our recruitment channels, mentorship, further training and development, work-life balance, and career pathing. Show of hands, how many of you have tried these suggestions in the past? All right. So I asked it how long this has been the appropriate response to hiring issues regarding hiring and retention. And its answer, decades, with a slight technological shift in the last 20 to 30 years. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. Seems incredibly relevant right here. People are the center of our ability to do the work our companies do. I refer to it often as a double-edged sword. We love our people and the impacts that we're able to make, but they can also be the hardest part of running our business. They are often the biggest unknown that we have. So you can know who, you can know what you need them to do, but we can't seem to grab or keep the psychological component, the why behind our people. We have a data gap. Ironically, most companies also happen to have this elusive culture gap also, the one that everyone insists can't be measured. The culture is the why, and we have come closer than ever to being able to measure it. Exclusive to your organization, your environment, your scenarios. Now, you could be asking yourself, do I need horses to fix my company? No, we did that research already. These happen to be a few pictures of my kiddos over the years and some of my personal research with horses before it kicked off our professional research with executives. A primary goal of the clients that we work with is to improve their hiring and retention rates, create a better workplace culture, and ultimately become a premium employer. They want to attract and retain top talent and address the challenges of an employee shortage. They also want to understand the true cost of hiring and how to ensure they are offering a competitive wage. Let's pause here for just a moment and talk leaders. Now, for those of you who have had the pleasure of working around horses in any capacity, you know that how you as a human are feeling around a horse can also affect how that horse acts. If you're skittish, they can become so also. But if you're confident and slow, they may be relaxed. They are very intuitive animals. Sound like any leaders that you know? In fact, we train leaders with horses because we have all known that ego-driven leader who doesn't believe any training will help them, any customer complaint isn't about them. But when we put that person with the horses, the magnification of their attitude and actions can't be denied. We have thank you notes from spouses and executive assistants who are so appreciative that we have finally cracked the code on a powerful executive who came through our training and realized it was them. The way leaders are directly impacting employees and the overall company culture is crucial. When we don't see this cascade correctly and the ownership leaders have in the process, retention struggles and hiring efforts are futile, even increasingly expensive. Some of the companies we'll talk about today are examples of where we have used the horses to work with executives to discover it is really them that is causing the issue. The underlying goal is to create a sustainable and thriving business environment by addressing the root cause of employee dissatisfaction, which impacts the bottom line. What changes would you make to one role if you knew it cost you triple to hire? We know from the companies that we have worked with and helped that most companies believe the cost to hire any one role in their organization is approximately a third of what it really is. Now, if that were truly the case in your organization right now, what changes would you make? Maybe take 2 minutes and jot that down. What would you do differently? Remember, I noted just one role, not across the board. So full warning, we're about to cover a significant amount of data. So if you need to stand up or do some jumping jacks, take some water, no judgment. We'll take questions at the end so that you can get as much clarity as you need. This is my self-proclaimed numbers nerd. Now, if I told you that your information to make your assessment on what you believe it costs you to hire wasn't truly accurate because it wasn't cross-departmental, what would you think? If you wanted to make a true assessment if your hiring decision was worth the investment, Within a traditional 90-day probation period, you would typically need to pay a minimum wage worker almost $230 per hour to make your money back within that probation period, not including any production that they generated. That's scary. And I'm not sure that anyone wants to make that much of a pay increase. So imagine pouring $100,000 into a new hire, only to watch them walk out the door in 3 months. That money gone. Poof, like a ghost in your budget that you didn't even know existed. We ran the scenario a few different ways here so that you could see the breakdown of how much money you could be losing when a new employee doesn't make it through a probation period and your hiring costs are not contained or it's taking you too long to hire. In the state of Ohio, minimum wage at $10.70, hiring costs $109,000, $109,408 in hiring costs. 2 offers per role and a 90-day probation period requires $228.10 per hour to break even if they make it through probation. 180-day probation requires $114.05. 1 year at 51 weeks, probation requires $53.67. Keep in mind, most of these hiring costs are very conservative. And if you see $109,000 and think your costs aren't that high, most companies' true costs are triple what you think they are. The second consideration that we see here, especially in hourly, because the calculators will run hourly, salary, and base plus commission, is the consideration that your most seasoned and knowledgeable staff also aren't making some of these rates, but you, quote unquote, can't afford to lose them. Here's the problem. Your herd of horses is already stampeding away. The lack of cross-departmental input on your numbers, not even addressing leadership skills yet, has your horses thundering away from you. If you as the hiring team and the manager that was doing the firing understood this cost, how would it affect the hiring and firing decision process? We see it as a lot less quick to fire, a more appropriate probation period, and better communication during training periods, just as a few to start. So we created a tool. I was running these numbers longhand for some of my corporate clients, not realizing that everyone didn't know how to do this. I fixed it for a few of my accountant's clients, and he suggested that we go ahead and automate. I help companies like yours find 3 primary calculations: true cost to hire, break-even point in days, and the optimal rate of pay per role. We begin understanding the discrepancies in hiring right here. What many roles are perceived to cost in the hiring process actually cost much more, typically triple. The great news is that this calculation is easily influenced once you begin to draw attention to why it is the true cost that you see. This also drastically affects how many days it takes to break even in a role. There are actually many different right answers when we begin to see this output, whether it be probation periods or where to spend more or less in the future, helping to dictate sales influence. We have a few clients who gather so much information that optimal rate of pay doesn't come until they have worked with us for some time. And that's truly where this tool gets unique. Every company, depending on size and employee count, has a different objective and a slight twist on how the calculators will benefit them, how they will use the outputs. The common thread rests in the data itself. We're eliminating the data gap. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. And for many companies, this is talent. We can make recommendations for you to then go where your culture is causing a fear indicator in your herd. The trends in the results across roles begin to identify where there is a gap in understanding and a gap causing true employee issue. This is upstream prevention at its core. Why that isn't detected in other tools is because most teams don't cross-departmentally report well and to the role level. For example, even in our free calculators, we see most companies not aware of the lack of time that a manager spends with a new employee during onboarding. What is supposed to happen and what actually happens may be enough to cause a pretty significant deficit. Who is actually doing the onboarding? Is it correct or just enough incorrect that it is causing a ripple effect through the department? If it's not the manager, then why? If it is the manager and it's still an issue, then what is going on there? And maybe it's just not enough training. If 10 roles come back as the manager training time being the issue, we've discovered a hot button. But typically, managers don't self-report well. The added component that comes in here is being able to bring awareness to your leadership that a blind spot exists. Leaders are blind to their own actions sometimes. Remember the comment I made about amplifying our actions when we don't realize we're doing them? This tool does exactly that. We can identify where there is a gap. Leaders need to be aware of the effects of their behavior, which can be magnified by their actions, similar to how their actions affect horses. The true strength of a leader used to be known as steadfastness. I believe it's knowing when to adapt because they know there is a better way of doing things. We know that companies rely on industry standard, minimum wage plus, or prevailing wage, assuming that they are doing the right thing. Except our businesses are more than industry standard. There is a human element that affects the entire ecosystem now, and employees feel it. Here comes that psychology piece again. Why do they stay? Why do they even agree to apply? And what ensures the quality of the work that they're doing? Your stampeding horses might have taken off because they saw issues like turnover, vacancy, poor client feedback, or missing delivery. They know when there is a threat. So if you can fix these items, you create opportunity to become a premium employer. You're saving money, you're offering better options, you're training better leaders, and you're settling your herd. Your intellectual property is safe within your organization. Most people don't want to be led, so how will you lead them? This tool has heard some pushback as far as, well, we have a tool like this, but it doesn't tell us where to spend our training dollars. So your current hiring calculator can supposedly tell you what is wrong, but not how to fix it. Or we did have a team ask us to tell their current outsourced trainers where to do the training. Again, sure. That didn't actually end up happening. We saved the client so much money in their retention that they could terminate their quote unquote training contract that wasn't actually helping with retention. We have even had consultants tell us that they're using incredibly outdated approaches and only going halfway to the solution, leaving their existing talent pool even more frustrated than it already is. I think that we can all agree that outdated theories like 2 times the salary of the role is the cost of the vacancy is not even accurate in today's market, or just use AI isn't accurate based on our previous example. Talent pools just aren't what they used to be, and they definitely aren't the same as decades ago. Identifying where your threats are when using the calculators keeps your herd calm. It allows the morale of the workforce to be magnified in a positive way by action leadership. Can you say that your company has those behaviors or characteristics now? Calm, proactive, actionable. Is it causing you to be more profitable? Let's do some examples. This is an example from the construction industry. Our client was struggling to get enough applicants, much less secure the quality of talent that they needed. They came in well within their 90-day probation period, were able to stabilize their starting wage offering at $18.46 with a consistent increase once they had finished their probation period. But their findings showed that they had plenty of room to increase their marketing dollars. when it came to advertising for open roles and increasing their talent funnel. Instead of having to make 3 offers for 1 role, they were moving to a 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 ratio, still keeping their break-even costs well below the 90-day probation period. They kept their overtime low and their burnout at bay because of the physical nature of the job. Let's talk about a few real-world examples. We've hit a point where the numbers just don't seem to make sense anymore. You don't have to look far to see examples of how compensation has become disconnected from skill, responsibility, and risk. A cashier at Target or a fast food worker who can clock in, complete a shift, and go home with little stress might be making more per hour than the people responsible for the role you are hiring. A school bus driver who has to obtain a commercial driver's license, pass background checks, and be responsible for dozens of children in unpredictable traffic often earns less than someone handing out fries at a drive-thru. Firefighters, people trained to run into burning buildings, save lives, and carry the weight of life or death decisions, sometimes makes less than a retail worker stocking shelves. It's not just about wages. It's about priorities, retention, and that invisible cost of turnover. If your best employees start doing the math and realize they can make the same or more elsewhere with less stress, what is keeping them in your workforce? We can't fix what we don't see, and we can't change it until we know what it's truly costing us. That's where this conversation and the right tools come into play. Your costs in hiring are what are dragging down the ability to compensate, and the lack of hiring is what is jeopardizing your retention and costs. How do you create demand in your compensation proactively versus reactively paying costs that are unknown because of the vacancy plus ripple effects to your culture? Here's another example. Traveling nurses make $150 per hour, but the existing house nurses make $41 an hour. If we increase the hourly rate per hour, we automatically draw talent, reduce the need for traveling nurses, increase headcount, improve culture on the unit, and we don't lose the intellectual property when those nurses leave. It also gives us an opportunity to lower our costs while we hire, rather than suspend the issue until the traveling nurse contract is over and we have to either hire again or extend at an even higher rate. This is a huge issue at the manager burnout level. Other added benefits include our societal impacts and sustainable growth initiatives that we have seen in our case study. Depending on the size and location of your business, we have seen some very unexpected impacts that we never anticipated. We are continuing our case study with companies that have multiple locations and are continuing to hire. I thought it would be valuable to show you where we have been and where we are going next. In 2021, Oxygen contracted clients only were beta testing optimal rate of pay, and these numbers were a long-handed calculation, not realizing the value they were presenting for companies struggling during the pandemic to navigate the world of talent, work from home, hybrid, product demand, almost a close version of the world as we know it post-pandemic. It was a huge shift in understanding compensation, and we were still very much so inventing our product. Our innovation truly began in 2023 when our trademarking and copywriting was official as the only optimal rate of pay calculators on the market, building premium employers with analytics inside companies as B.L.I.S.S, and the automation was available on our website. Because of our double loop processes in 2024, Oxygen Staffing was created for companies that needed to source talent without traditional recruiters. This is not traditional recruiting, but truly sourcing talent that is compensated well and not hurting, excuse the pun, in and out of agencies. Again, this started as good networking for our existing clients and then became much more. In 2025, we're hoping to release our societal case study of 10 companies on the impacts of compensation beyond the employer. What we didn't know SmartHire would do beyond the walls of the employer. Further innovation will continue as SmartHire has the ability to improve your sales and marketing in a similar manner, improving your margins when people are a necessity to improve your product. Can you find your pulse, maybe your wrist or your neck, and really feel your heartbeat? Maybe close your eyes, put your feet flat on the floor, take a big, deep breath. In the end, we can identify the gap that is the elusive culture. It is exclusively your organization's, and it has to be looked at in that way. Just like your heartbeat is yours and no one else's. If your corporate culture was measured by a heartbeat, what do you think your company's heartbeat? Would it be enough to cause a stampede? Your heart is already either strong and steady towards stability, nervously increasing the risk. Let's make sure it's in the right direction. My name is Kat Johnson. I am the founder of Oxygen Coaching Group and the creator of SmartHire, also known as B.L.I.S.S. Thank you so much for having me today. I look forward to taking some time to answer your questions. You can scan this QR code for tons of resources, including 12 hiring pitfalls and how to avoid them for a stronger workforce.